The notification from my credit monitoring app hit my phone at 0347 hours while I was running pre-flight checks on an F-16 at MacDill Air Force Base. Senior Master Sergeant Seth Langley, 32 years old, United States Air Force. 6 months into my rotation in Florida, I'd seen enough overseas tours to know when something felt wrong. This felt wrong. The alert showed a new address associated with my social security number. An apartment complex in Tampa I'd never heard of. 1247 Riverside Gardens Drive, Unit 3B. The timestamp showed the address change had been processed 3 days ago through some state assistance program I'd never applied for. I stared at the screen. My official address was base housing, had been for 2 years. My credit union had my correct information. My insurance company had my correct information. The Air Force had my correct information. So who the hell was living at 1247 Riverside Gardens Drive using my identity? I screenshotted the alert and opened my banking app. Everything looked normal. Checking account, savings account, all the usual transactions. Direct deposit from the Air Force came in like clockwork. No unauthorized charges. No missing funds. But someone had used my social security number to establish residency at an address I'd never seen. I pulled up the credit monitoring details. The address change had been submitted through Florida's Emergency Assistance Program. Food stamps, housing vouchers, medical benefits. All approved under my name and social security number. My hands went cold despite the Florida heat. I'd been deployed for 6 months. Before that, I was stationed at Nellis in Nevada for 3 years. I hadn't lived in Florida long enough to qualify for state assistance programs, and I sure as hell hadn't applied for any. The pre-flight checklist sat forgotten on my clipboard. I scrolled through more details on my phone. The application showed my correct social security number, my correct date of birth, even my correct mother's maiden name. But the address was wrong. The phone number was wrong. And according to the system, I'd been a Florida resident for over a year. Someone had built an entire fake residency history using my personal information. I thought about calling the fraud hotline right then, but something made me hesitate. This wasn't random identity theft. Random thieves didn't have access to my mother's maiden name. They didn't know my exact date of birth. They didn't have enough personal information to convince a state agency that they were me. This was someone who knew me. The morning briefing started in 20 minutes. I had to focus on the mission. But my mind kept circling back to that address. 1247 Riverside Gardens Drive. Someone was living there, collecting benefits in my name, and they had information that only a handful of people possessed. I locked my phone and tried to concentrate on the checklist. But the questions wouldn't stop coming. Who had access to my personal records? Who knew my mother's maiden name? Who could have gotten copies of my identification documents? The answer was starting to form in the back of my mind. An answer I didn't want to consider. Because if I was right about who had done this, it meant someone I'd trusted with my life had been systematically stealing my identity for months. The briefing room felt smaller than usual. I sat in the back row, trying to focus on the mission parameters while my phone burned a hole in my pocket. Every few minutes I caught myself reaching for it, wanting to dig deeper into that Florida Assistance Program database. Staff Sergeant Martinez was explaining air traffic patterns when my mind drifted back to Nevada, Nellis Air Force Base. 3 years of my life. 3 years working alongside people I'd considered family. One face kept surfacing in my thoughts. Technical Sergeant Rebecca Voss. Voss had been my immediate supervisor for 2 years at Nellis. She'd handled personnel files, paperwork, emergency contact updates. She'd been the one who helped me update my records when my mother remarried. She'd been there when I filled out the paperwork for my Florida transfer. She knew my mother's maiden name because she'd processed the emergency contact changes herself. The briefing ended. I walked back to my quarters, pulled out my laptop, and started digging. The Florida Assistance Program had an online portal for checking application status. I created an account using my social security number and date of birth. The system recognized me immediately. According to their records, I'd been receiving benefits for 4 months. Food stamps worth $194 per month, housing assistance covering $800 monthly rent, emergency medical coverage. The total value was over $4,000 so far. But here's what made my blood run cold. The application had been submitted electronically using a military email address, not my email address. Voss's email address. I screenshot everything. Then I called the program's fraud hotline. Florida Emergency Assistance, Fraud Department. This is Senior Master Sergeant Seth Langley. Someone has been collecting benefits using my identity. I'll need to verify your information, sir. I provided my social security number, date of birth, and current military status. The representative confirmed what I already knew. Someone had been collecting benefits in my name for months. The application shows you're a Florida resident, living at 1247 Riverside Gardens Drive in Tampa. I've never lived at that address. I'm currently deployed overseas. Sir, the application was submitted with supporting documentation. Military ID copies, utility bills, lease agreements. Everything appeared legitimate. Can you tell me what email address was used for the application? There was a pause. I'm not authorized to release that information over the phone. You'll need to file a formal fraud report. I hung up and immediately called my bank. No unusual activity on my accounts. No unauthorized access. Whoever was doing this wasn't stealing my money directly. They were stealing my identity to get government benefits. That's when I remembered something else about Voss. She'd always been broke, always complaining about money, always asking for advances on her pay. She'd mentioned having trouble making rent multiple times. I pulled up Facebook and searched for her profile. Rebecca Voss, Tampa, Florida. She'd moved to Tampa 6 months ago. Right around the time the benefit application started, her profile showed photos from her new apartment. Nice place, new furniture. She was posting about expensive dinners, weekend trips to Orlando, shopping sprees at the mall, all funded by benefits she was collecting in my name. I needed proof. Real proof. Not just circumstantial and suspicious timing. I called Airman First Class Danny Chen, my old roommate from Nellis. Chen worked in the communications squadron and had access to email logs. Seth, man, how's it treating you? I need a favor, Danny, and it's not exactly by the book. What kind of favor? I need you to check email logs for Technical Sergeant Voss. Specifically, any emails sent to Florida state agencies in the past 6 months. Chen was quiet for a moment. That's some serious stuff, Seth. What's going on? I explained the situation. The fake benefits, the stolen identity, the pointing to Voss. Give me 24 hours, Chen said. I'll see what I can find. The next day, Chen called back with information that confirmed my worst suspicions. She sent 17 emails to various Florida state agencies over the past 6 months. Emergency assistance, food stamps, housing authority, medical benefits, all from her military email account. Can you get copies of those emails? Already done. I'm sending them to your personal email right now. The emails were damning. Voss had submitted applications for benefits using my personal information. She'd attached scanned copies of my military ID, my social security card, and utility bills that had been digitally altered to show the Tampa address. But the most incriminating was in her sent folder. She'd been corresponding with someone at 1247 Riverside Gardens Drive, someone named Marcus Webb. The emails revealed the entire scheme. Webb was Voss's boyfriend. She'd moved in with him in Tampa and needed money to pay her share of the rent. She'd used my identity to apply for benefits, then had the benefit cards and documentation mailed to Webb's address. In one email, she'd written, "The military ID copy worked perfectly. They approved everything. Seth's deployed for another 6 months, so we're safe until then." In another, "Just got the food stamp card, $194 per month. Plus, the housing voucher came through. We're golden." I had everything I needed. Email, benefit records, proof of fraud spanning 4 months. But I wanted more than just plan. I wanted a confession. I called the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and spoke with Detective Sarah Kim. She specialized in identity theft cases involving military personnel. "This is a federal crime," Detective Kim said after I explained the situation. "We're talking about wire fraud, identity theft, and theft of government benefits. Your former supervisor is looking at serious prison time. What's the next step?" "We need to coordinate with federal authorities. This crosses state lines and involves military personnel. I'm going to connect you with Special Agent Park from the U.S. Marshal Service." Special Agent Park called me that evening. "Senior Master Sergeant Langley, I've reviewed the you've provided. We have enough for an arrest warrant, but I'd like to try something else first." "What do you have in mind?" "A controlled contact. We set up a situation where Voss incriminates herself on a recorded call. Get her to admit to the fraud. It'll make the prosecution much stronger." The plan was simple. I would call Voss and confront her about the benefits. Agent Park would monitor the call and record everything. If Voss admitted to the fraud, they'd move in for the arrest. "She's going to deny everything," I said. "Maybe. But people panic when they're caught. They say things they shouldn't say, and we only need her to slip up once. We scheduled the call for the following evening. Agent Park would be listening from the Tampa field office. Detective Kim would be standing by with local police. I spent the day rehearsing what I would say, how I would approach the conversation, how I would get Voss to admit what she'd done. But nothing could have prepared me for what actually happened when I made that call. The call went through at 1,847 hours. Agent Park was recording from Tampa. Detective Kim had units positioned near Voss's apartment in Jacksonville. "Hello?" Voss answered on the third ring. "It's Seth. We need to talk." Silence. Then, "Seth? How did you get this number?" "That's not important. What's important is that I know what you've been doing." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The food stamps, Rachel. The housing voucher. The $194 per month you've been collecting in my name." Another pause. Longer this time. "You're crazy. I haven't done anything. I have the emails, the benefit cards, everything." "That's impossible." "Is it?" "Because I'm looking at an email right now. Send from your account to the benefits office. Quote, just got the food stamp card, $194 per month, plus the housing voucher came through. We're golden. Quote. I could hear her breathing change. Faster, shallower. Someone must have hacked my email. Really? Someone hacked your email and decided to commit federal fraud using my identity? That's your story? I'm hanging up. Wait, before you do that, you should know that the U.S. Marshals are already involved. This is wire fraud, Rachel. Identity theft? Theft of government benefits. You're looking at federal prison time. You can't prove anything. I can prove everything. Bank records, benefit applications, email trails, your signature on documents, your address on the applications. My address? 1247 Riverside Drive, Jacksonville. Apartment 3B. The same address you used when you applied for benefits in my name. The line went quiet for almost 30 seconds. How much do you want? She finally said. Agent Park would later tell me that was the moment they knew they had her. How much do I want for what? To make this go away. How much money do you want? I don't want money, Rachel. I want to know why you did this. I was desperate, okay? My mom got sick. Medical bills. I couldn't afford rent. I saw an opportunity, and I took it. An opportunity? You stole my identity. I didn't steal anything. I just borrowed it. For 4 months. I was going to pay it back. How? You don't have a job. I would have figured something out. By stealing from someone else? It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. You're deployed. You don't need food stamps. That's not the point. Then what is the point? You want me to go to prison? You want to destroy my life? You destroyed your own life when you decided to commit federal crimes. Please, Seth. I'll pay back every penny. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't press charges. It's too late for that. No, it's not. You can call them off. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? You forged my signature on government documents. I can explain that. How? I had your permission. When did I give you permission to apply for food stamps in my name? Before you deployed. You said if I ever needed help. I never said that. You did. You just don't remember. I remember everything, Rachel, and I never gave you permission to steal my identity. It's not stealing if you have permission. Show me the permission. Show me the document where I authorized you to apply for government benefits in my name. I don't have it in writing, because it doesn't exist. You're being unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable? You committed federal crimes using my identity and I'm being unreasonable? I was desperate. So you decided to drag me into your problems. I thought you'd understand. Understand what? That you're a criminal? I'm not a criminal. I made a mistake. You made multiple mistakes. Over 4 months. This wasn't one mistake. This was a pattern of criminal behavior. Fine. You want to send me to prison? Go ahead. But remember that I trusted you. I helped you when you needed it. And this is how you repay me. You helped me? When? When you were having problems with your ex-wife. When you needed someone to talk to. I was there for you. Being a friend doesn't give you the right to steal my identity. I wasn't stealing. I was surviving. At my expense. You weren't hurt by this. My credit was damaged. My security clearance could have been affected. My military career could have been destroyed. But it wasn't. Because I caught you. Because you got lucky. Lucky? I spent weeks investigating this. I tracked down every transaction. I followed every lead. That's not luck. That's detective work. You always were obsessive, and you always were dishonest. I'm not dishonest. You're talking to me right now while committing federal fraud. How is that not dishonest? I'm trying to fix this. By lying about having my permission? I'm not lying. Then prove it. I can't. Because you're lying. Because you won't listen. I'm listening. I'm listening to you admit to wire fraud on a recorded line. What? This call is being recorded, Rachel. Everything you've said is being documented by federal agents. You can't do that. I just did. That's entrapment. No, that's collection. I want a lawyer. You should have thought of that before you committed federal crimes. This conversation is over. Yes, it is. She hung up. Agent Park called me back within minutes. Outstanding work, Senior Master Sergeant. We have everything we need. When will you arrest her? Units are moving now. She'll be in custody within the hour. What happens next? Federal arraignment. Probably tomorrow morning. She'll be charged with wire fraud, identity theft, and theft of government benefits. Based on the amount involved and the duration of the fraud, she's looking at 18 to 24 months in federal prison. And the money? Full restitution will be part of the plea agreement, plus penalties and court costs. How long will the case take? If she pleads guilty, maybe 3 months. If she fights it, could be a year or more. But with the we have, including tonight's confession, her attorney will probably advise her to take a plea. Detective Kim called an hour later. She's in custody, arrested without incident at her apartment, found the benefit cards in her purse, also found a notebook with your personal information, social security number, date of birth, military service details. She was planning to expand the fraud. Expand it how? Apply for additional benefits. Maybe try for disability payments. The notebook had research on veteran benefits programs. She was going to keep going until she got caught or until you came back from shits. Whichever came first. What's her story now? No comment. Lawyered up immediately. But it doesn't matter. We have the phone. We have the confession. This case is closed. The arraignment was held 3 days later via video conference. I watched from the legal office at MacDill. Voss appeared in orange jail scrubs, flanked by a public defender. The charges were read: wire fraud, identity theft, theft of government benefits. Total amount, $1,847 over 4 months. Her attorney entered a plea of not guilty, but Agent Park was right. 2 weeks later, she changed her plea to guilty as part of a negotiated agreement. Sentencing, 18 months in federal prison. Full restitution of $1,847 plus $3,200 in penalties and court costs. 3 years supervised probation after release. The judge also ordered her to attend financial counseling and prohibited her from applying for any government benefits for 5 years. The defendant took advantage of a deployed service member, the judge said during sentencing. This represents a particularly egregious breach of trust that undermines public confidence in our benefit systems. Voss said nothing during the hearing. She was remanded to federal custody immediately. I received the restitution check 6 weeks later, $1,847, exactly what she'd stolen. But the case had a broader impact. Agent Park asked me to help with 3 similar cases involving military personnel. Identity theft targeting deployed service members was apparently more common than I'd realized. I spent my remaining time working with federal investigators, helping them understand military systems and procedures, how someone could access personnel records, how they could forge military documents, how they could exploit the cycle. You have a talent for this, Agent Park told me after we closed the 3rd case. Ever think about a career in federal law enforcement? I'm thinking about a lot of things. Well, if you ever want to make a change, give me a call. The last month have passed quickly. Voss was serving her sentence at a federal facility in Alabama. The other cases were resolved. The investigation was complete. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there were more cases out there. More deployed service members being victimized by people they trusted. More betrayals waiting to be discovered. 12 months later, I was back at MacDill permanently. No more deployments for a while. The Florida heat felt different when you knew you weren't leaving. I'd taken Agent Park's advice. Sort of. Instead of federal law enforcement, I opened a private consultancy for secure proxy management. military personnel facing identity theft, benefit fraud, document forgery. The cases kept coming. Turns out Voss wasn't unique. She was just sloppy. My first client was a Navy corpsman whose ex-wife had filed for military spouse benefits using forged marriage certificates. Second case, an Army specialist whose roommate had applied for veteran disability payments using stolen medical records. Third, a Marine whose brother had been collecting his combat pay for 6 months. The patterns were always the same: trust, access, exploitation, discovery. I worked with federal agencies on each case. Agent Park became a regular contact. The Transportation Security Administration brought me in when military IDs were involved. The cases got more complex, but the methods stayed consistent. Document everything. Follow the digital trail. Let the speak. My office was a small space near downtown Tampa. 1 desk, 2 chairs, a secure computer system. I didn't need much. Most of the work happened online anyway. The Voss case had taught me something important. Betrayal leaves digital fingerprints. Bank records, application timestamps, IP addresses, phone logs. Everything was traceable if you knew where to look. I kept Agent Park's business card on my desk. Not because I was thinking about changing careers again. Because some cases required federal resources that I couldn't access alone. The restitution money from Voss had gone into a victim assistance fund I'd established. Small amounts, but it helped other service members cover the costs of credit monitoring and legal fees while their cases were pending. Voss was released after 14 months. Good behavior. She moved back to Ohio, as far as I knew. I never heard from her again. But I heard about her. Through the network of investigators and attorneys who worked these cases, she'd tried to apply for state benefits using her sister's identity, got caught within 2 weeks, violated her probation. Back to federal prison? Some people never learned. My phone buzzed. Text message from Agent Park. New case. Army captain. Deployed to Kuwait. Someone's been filing tax returns in his name for 3 years. Interested? I looked out the window at Tampa Bay. Clear water, bright sky, no clouds. The kind of day that made you forget about betrayal and fraud and broken trust. But only for a moment. I typed back, send me the details. Because somewhere out there, another service member was discovering that someone they trusted had stolen their identity. Another person was realizing that made them vulnerable in ways they'd never considered. Another betrayal was waiting to be exposed. I closed my laptop and locked the office. The work would be there tomorrow. It always was. But tonight, I was going home to my quiet apartment, my secure accounts, my carefully monitored credit reports. No surprises waiting. No mysterious charges. No forged documents. Just silence and certainty. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.